All right. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How are you?
I'm doing good this morning. Oh man, did you lose electricity at your place last night?
No, fortunately we didn't, but we certainly heard the storms last night. It was pretty powerful.
I lost it three times here at the house, knocked the station off the air overnight. But we had our backup server that came in and started playing music and stuff. We didn't get back online until about 6:15 this morning.
Wow.
So
Yeah, we're out here in Bernie, and storm was bad, but we never lost electricity.
what about the hail? You get any hail out there?
I don't believe so. I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Well, we got hit the past couple of times. I roof damage, car damage on the last storm. So I would say, oh no, hill coming again. I said, wow, I'm going to keep on having the insurance company out there every week if this keeps up. Yeah. Um, I talked to Mr. Bill the other day. He was on the show, and we were talking about your books and what was his insight on how he came up with the characters, drawing it up. And he said, well, it was pretty easy with Chris because we got this chemistry that we do together. He'll give me an idea and it just comes to my head and I put things on paper. So is that easy sometimes when you have somebody with chemistry?
It is. Excuse me. Bill and I have really good collaboration. The first book took some time because we were working through what images we wanted to see, and he would send me some sketches, and I would take a look at them, and we would revise them or modify them. But his initial rendering of the characters is what convinced me to use Bill as my illustrator. And then once we got through the first book, the rest of the books have been fairly smooth. I send him a story and he looks at it. He knows what I'm looking for as far as the illustrations. And then he sends me back sketches in pencil of what he thinks those scenes ought to look like in the books. And then every once in a while I might, add something or delete something, but normally he hits it, out of the ballpark with almost every initial collaboration.
Yeah, he was telling me that I asked him, do you have any of your old work that you rejected yourself? I was telling Bill, because sometimes we could be our own worst critic. He said, yeah, he's got a file full. He drew together and stuff and put them to the side, but he said he will revisit those later. It may fit someone else who wants a book and stuff. He said, yes, it's he said it's easy to work with Chris because of he knows what Chris wants, and it's just a flow that goes together. And it's hard to find nowadays because finding somebody to sit down and get to know you and know everything, because I know it takes a lot to put that trust in somebody to do things for you. And most of the time, it takes a conversation down and talk maybe for hours at a time, getting to know that person. And then from that conversation, you know exactly what that person wants.
Well, we had some of those conversations initially because obviously I had to impart to him my vision of what I was looking for in these children's books, primarily because they're based on my daughters. So I wanted to make sure that, they were captured the way I wanted to capture them, and that the stories, had a realistic but playful kind of tone to them as well, and that some people might be able to learn something from the stories as well. So he and I would talk about those kinds of things, and we would talk through, like I said, my vision of what I was looking for, and eventually we came to an understanding of kind of what I was looking for every time that I give him a story, and he came back with, like I said, sketches that really reflected what I was thinking about.
You said the key word vision. It's hard for somebody to go with the vision that that person has. People has a vision of what they want. And when you find somebody like that that understands your vision and what you want to see, it makes it a lot easier. Because I was out last summer. This young lady just bought a ranch and asked me to she poured a slab out there, already had a roof and all that. She said she wants an outdoor bar, but she don't know how she wanted. She had a vision. So I went out there without putting anything on paper, didn't draw up anything, gave her a supply list of what we're gonna need. I started putting it together, and it clicked. What she was visualized, I was putting on paper without her telling me exactly what she wanted. So, you're right. A vision, and somebody else see your vision, it makes their work so much easier.
The other thing also about this collaboration is that Bill, being African American, I think also takes some pride in illustrating African American characters. And as you go through the books, you'll see that most of the characters are African American. Obviously, the lead characters are, as well as their parents. But a lot of the other characters as well are African American. There's a lot of diversity also in the books as to who are included in the books, but primarily the characters happen to be African American. So that was another thing that I was looking for, was somebody who could illustrate African American characters as well. I'd had other people that had done some renderings of the characters previously to Bill, but they weren't African American, and they didn't quite capture what I was looking for in the characters. So I think that's another factor as well, is that when I'm talking to Bill, I think he innately understands what I'm thinking about, because we're both coming from the same sort of background. One other thing about working with Bill is that Bill, as a youth, lived in Alaska. I'm not sure everyone knows that he lived in Alaska as a kid, but 3 of my books have to do with traveling to Alaska, being in Alaska. So that brought back a lot of memories for him, because he was able to illustrate the books about Alaska, not only based on my vision, but also on his own experience having lived there. So that was kind of fun too.
Yeah. So when you start writing a book, do you get your daughters involved on what you're writing about? Because the story is you have them in there. Do they have any control over what dad writes about?
Not at all. I guess they trust me not to embarrass them too badly in the books, but no, they have no oversight, no say so whatsoever about what goes into the books.
So I would say that they're your critics, and after they read the book, do they reflect on, Dad, you missed the point, or that was right on time? Because I know you get some feedback from your daughters.
Absolutely. What I do is I send them the illustrations as they're being developed, so they can see the development of the books. And if they have any comments along the way, then that's the time to make them. Once the books are published, though, it's kind of late for that. But I do give them a chance to at least look at them and give me feedback if they want to. But for the most part, they're pretty pleased with the products.
Okay. So do you have another book on the horizon that's coming out?
Not in the next few months, probably next year. And the reason for that is because since I'm at the point where I have 6, and the last 3 are what I call the Alaskan trilogy, I'm trying to push those and market those as much as possible right now. One of the things we're looking forward to is the releasing of the Little Mermaid. The real life, action movie coming out in May, which features an African American mermaid with red hair.
Yes, I've seen that.
So, we're looking forward to doing that. In addition, I've been on a couple of international podcasts and similar types of radio shows like yours that reach the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and also the United States. And one of the things that came to mind from one of the persons that was listening to the podcast or to the interview was potentially translating the books into a different language. So I'm looking at translating the first one, which has to do with the girls getting their first puppies, and the third one, which has to do with their trip to Mexico, translating those into Spanish.
Okay.
So that's a different kind of direction that I'm taking, because obviously here in South Texas we have a pretty large Hispanic market, and I would like the books to relate as much to as great a market as possible. So that's one thing that I'm looking at doing, is translating a couple of the books into Spanish. So that's kind of where my direction is going right now, is working on the books that I have and then trying to market them to the best of my ability.
So how do you go about getting your books published? Do you go through a publisher, or you do it yourself? How do you go about that?
The first book, I went through a printer who printed the books up for me, and the cost of doing that seemed to be prohibitive to me. I went to someone else to try to publish the first book, and it was already done. It was a completed copy. I mean, the entire thing was done. All you had to do was print it. And they wanted to charge me $5,000 to publish the book, but it was already done. So I decided that I could do that myself. So I started my own publishing company, Olympiad Publishing, back in 2018 to publish the children's books. And then not only have I published the children's books, but also a couple of novels that I've written as well. But the other thing I want to do with the publishing company is to give other African-American authors a gateway to having their works published as well. So in the next few months, I'm coming out with another author's children's book. It has a Christian orientation to it. And it's been fun working with her and getting an illustrator for her. Unfortunately, it's not Bill this time because she wanted a different style for her books. But that's the other avenue I'm pursuing, and I'm talking to someone else as well about helping them write a memoir for themselves and their kids about an experience that they went through, and try to get that out there to the market as well. So that's another direction that I'm taking with the publishing company. It's not just publishing my stuff, but also branching out to publish other African-American authors who want to get their materials out there.
Well, good for you. That sounds like a lot of Black business owners are doing things on their own and bypassing the middle people and doing it themselves. So how hard was it what was the process and how hard was it to start your publishing company?
Well, I had to come up with a name first. And I wanted the name to reflect my background as part of the Divine Nine. So that's why I came up with Olympiad, which is also the word for the Olympic Games, are called the Olympiad. But anyway, once I established the name, then it's a matter of working through the process of using what's called a print-on-demand online company. And the one that I use is called Ingram Sparks as a part of Lightning Source. And they have a ready-made process that you go through in order to publish your works. So that makes it a lot easier, but you do have to learn the steps in order to do that. You have to learn that the books have to be in a certain format in order to be acceptable, in order to look professional. They have to be done in a certain way so that they can be printed so that they look good. But publishing the novels is probably the more difficult process than the children's books is fairly easy. The novels were more difficult because they were much longer. You had to be much more cognizant of the page size, the artwork that you had, as well as getting it the way that you want it to look. But you also have to go through the Copyright Office to make sure that your works are copyrighted. You have to get an ISBN, which is an international book number. International Standard Book Number is what ISBN stands for. You have to get an ISBN for every one of your books. You have to price them both for American market, Canadian market, and other international markets. So there are a lot of different things that you have to do in order to get the book so that's ready to go, and then finally upload it so it can be published by the online publishing company or printing company. And then you have to go through the process of reviewing it. Once it's uploaded, make sure that it's correct, because that and then you have to get them to send you a copy of it first to review it again, to make sure that it's correct, because that happened to me a couple of times where it looked good in the e-program, but when I got the actual hard copy, it was different. So that's all part of the process. But once I got the process down after the first one, it became a much smoother process. So it's not as hard as publishers will make you want to think it is. If you have a modicum of intelligence, you can figure it out, and that's what I did.
Okay, so what's the best form of printing? Should people do paperback first or hard copy or hardcover? And what is the cost between those two?
Hardcover is about 50% more expensive than the soft cover. Right now, my books are a soft cover, but I know that if I want them in libraries, like the Carver Library as an example, I would have to produce them with hardcovers. So I'm not quite at that point yet, but I may be at some point where I decide to switch over to hardcover to make them more marketable to those kinds of institutions. But that is one thing that is more expensive is the hardcover for the children's books. For the novels, it's not as important. Novels can be paperback. That's not a problem. So both the novels have been paperback, and they've done fine.
Okay. All right. We're going to switch gears on you. I'm going to throw something at you.
Uh-oh.
A lot of people don't know this about Chris, that his family was chosen to be on Family Feud. And they had auditions, and they went through the audition process, and your family was chosen. So tell us about going out there. You went to Atlanta, right?
Correct.
Go
ahead.
Was it Tyler Perry Studios?
It was a part of Tyler Perry Studios. It wasn't on the main campus of Tyler Perry Studios, but it was kind of an offshoot that was a little farther away. It was kind of encapsulated unto itself because it was still during the pandemic. So there were a lot of precautions when it came to getting on set and so forth. But the process was fun, just getting selected. I'd heard on Facebook that Family Feud was looking for families out of San Antonio. So I went on their website and clicked on the link to get the application and fill out an application. But first, before I had to do that, I had to make sure I had 5 family members who were ready to do this.
Yeah.
So I contact a few of my family members, and particularly those here in Texas, and my wife's family members as well. So we got 5 people: myself, my wife, my oldest daughter, and my wife's cousin and her husband, who live in Austin. So they were all very agreeable to it. It sounded like fun, but no one believed that we would actually ever be selected. They just thought it was kind of a lark. But I sent the application in with the information about each of the individuals, and apparently the producers liked what they read. So they sent me back a request for pictures and for us to do a videotape, audition tape. So we went with a Texas theme, obviously, since this is where we're from. We got T-shirts, "Don't Mess with Texas," and each of us wore cowboy hats, cowboy boots, or some sort of Texas-related accoutrement, and we did an audition tape. We sent the tape to a guy who was going to edit it for us, but he liked the blooper tape better than the actual audition tape. So he actually sent us back the blooper tape as the tape to send to Family Feud. And that turned out to be probably a brilliant idea, because from what we understand from the producers, they were just rolling on the floor laughing at the blooper tape that we sent them. It showed that we had a lot of personality, that we like to have fun. And that's what they're looking for contestants on the show, is people who like to have fun and show personality. And that's what that did. So once we sent the audition tape in, They then sent us a request for an interview. So we did a Zoom interview, similar to what we're doing now. And not only did we do a Zoom interview with each individual, all five of us were together, but we did it by individuals as well. We played a round of the game to see if we could play the game. And we got 5 out of 7 answers correct. So we showed that we could play the game. We showed that we could have fun, that we had personality. And then within a couple of months after that, we got another email saying that we'd been selected to tape, but it would be over the next 2 years. And this is in 2021. The process started in November 2020. This is like, I don't know, March or April of 2021 that we were told it might take up to 2 years before we would get on the show. So we said, okay, that's fine. And then we get another email in June saying that we're taping in July of 2021.
Yeah.
We're like, excuse me, in 6 weeks we're going to be what? So they gave us 6 weeks to prepare, clear our schedules for a week, because we were flying in on a Sunday and we were told that we would be there through the following Friday, more than likely. So they flew us to Atlanta, paid for, hotel, paid for airfare, took care of meals while we were at the hotel. And we had a chauffeured, limo van that took us from the hotel to the studio every day. So, I mean, you're treated really well by the Family Feud folks. And the first day on set, you have a chance to watch, real shows being taped since you're in the audience. And then they give you a chance to get on stage to do rehearsals so that you get an opportunity to get used to being on stage. They have a stand-in for Steve Harvey, obviously, for this part of it. But they're playing music all the time. I mean, really good hip hop or R&B music. They have a guy who's the host, who, really funny guy. It was like being in a comedy show most of the time when you're in the audience. And then finally, they tapped you on the shoulder and say, okay, Pittard family, you're up next. And that's when you realize, oh yeah, that's right, I'm here to play the show.
Yeah.
Because we were there for almost 2 days before we actually got on stage to play the show itself. And that's an experience in itself, is being up there and then your name being announced and Steve Harvey coming out there on the stage. There he is right there. That's Steve Harvey. He's looking at you and he's saying, introduce me to your family, and all that. So we had a great time while we were there. We were on 3 episodes altogether. We won fast money on one of them. Unfortunately, we lost the last one in triple sudden death. You don't see all 3 times that went to sudden death, but you only see the last one. Unfortunately, we lost that one, but we went down fighting in triple sudden death. But it was a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed our experience there.
So on the fast money, do you get the money?
Yeah, you get the money, but they don't. they don't tell you this begin. I don't know if as many people would play, but they don't tell you until after you leave that, or as you're leaving, that you'll get your money within 90 days of when the show airs.
Oh,
because you think you're going to get the money within 90 days of the taping of the show. So we taped the show in July 2021, but we didn't get paid until July of 2022 because the show didn't air until April of 2022, and then we got our checks in the mail within 90 days after that. So almost a year after we taped the show, we got paid.
Did Uncle Sam get the first 10%?
No.
Okay.
It's almost like we were contractors. Game show winnings come out under a different category under the Internal Revenue Code. So you have to report them as income, but they're nothing's deducted from them when you first get them.
Oh, okay. So that was a good experience, huh? Going out there.
It was a really fun experience. Again, the family didn't expect to be selected, but we had a really good experience while we were out there. and we had a really good time. In fact, if there's a video that they produce after every taping season, and for the video for 2022, we have two different portions or excerpts on that video. They do the best moments on Family Feud for 2022, and we have two of them on that video. And all 5 of our episodes have some sort of excerpt on YouTube. So not only do we have fun, but we made it interesting for the audience as well.
Good, good, good. Now we're gonna switch gears again.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw something else at you. Somebody asked me a while back, did I know you? I said, yeah, I've been knowing Chris for a while. Where you know him from? I said, we're avid bowlers. And so y'all bowl, are y'all any good? We're all right.
Well, you can say you're all right, but I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I know you are. I was waiting for you to say that because I had just started bowling when I first met you. And I think my average was 110. Well, I sort of got a little better. Now I'm averaging 203 a game. So I just stepped it up a little bit because I do it for fun because I like doing that. So have you ever bowled any 300 games?
Yeah, I have 10 300s under my belt. 7 of them are sanctioned. And what I mean by that is that they were bowled in either a league or a tournament where the USBC sanctioned the scores as being award or honor scores. The other 3 were bowled in non-sanctioned tournaments where obviously, they were important and they were able to, I was able to win money with them, but they didn't count toward, getting a ring or anything like that. But yeah, I have 10.
So they still give the ring out for 300s, right?
They give out what's called a lifetime award. So if you want a free ring from USBC, you'll get your first one free from them. If you want to have additional rings after that, you have to pay for it yourself.
But the first one is free and the rest is a certificate, I take it.
Yeah, you get a certificate from the local USBC association, and they'll give you something as well for 300, some sort of, trinket or trophy or something like that from the local association, but you won't get a ring from USBC but once, like I said, unless you want to pay for it. And because, I don't think I'm going to get that many 300s in the rest of my life, I have a ring for every one of them.
Okay, there you go. I'm still waiting for mine. I came close a year ago with a 283.
You had the front 10?
Yeah,
You had a 283?
I had a 283.
I'm not even going to ask you how you got that number. So, okay.
I don't know. That's what the number showed up there. And I looked at myself. I found out a lot of my thing is my timing and my approach to the lane and following through. And sometimes I get complacent and forget to do those 3. It's almost like, oh, okay, just throw it. Then you say, why did I do that? So you got to constantly talk to yourself, do your approach, your time, and follow through. My main thing is following through. And that has been my thorn in my side because 7th or 8th frame, I'm doing good. All of a sudden, I do one stupid thing and not following through, and I don't get what I'm supposed to be getting. So it's mental. I know that. But maybe one day I will get there.
I'm sure you will. You've got plenty of time. And it sometimes it just happens, you just, you're like there at the 11th strike and you're like, wow, okay, I got one more to go. And do is just, do everything I've done before. The first one's always the best one though, to me. That's the one I remember the most. But I was in Las Vegas just a couple of weeks ago for the senior high roller tournament. That was during the week of, actually it was over a couple of weeks, but that's a tournament in Vegas that's for people over the age of 50 to compete. Mm-hmm. And it was my first year going to that particular tournament in Vegas. So I think we're going to go again in October. They have it twice a year now, April and October. So I think I'll go back in October. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm going to a state tournament in Dallas next week.
Okay.
At Richardson and then Louisville. But I tell you what, I don't mean to be talking about bowling alleys, but I went to state last year and Westlake. They had a little flood there. Lane 1 through 10 was warped, and what they did, they put the people out of town on those lanes, and the ones that are in town, they had the other lanes. And I mean, Chris, no matter how you threw that ball down there, it took a sharp left turn every time. You could see the floor was warped a little bit. I said, how could y'all have a tournament here with conditions like this?
Yeah, I've been disappointed at Westgate in the past for different reasons. And I'm not sure why certain things happen at that particular house the way they do, but yeah, I've seen some interesting things happen at Westlake during state tournaments. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed in the way that it's run at times.
Yeah. When I find out it's there, I don't go. That's my boycott. I don't go, but I'm having fun as it is down the line anyway. Last stop I want to talk about your service in the military. How did that influence you on things that you're doing now in life?
I grew up as a military or Army brat. My dad was an Army officer, and in that time frame, it was not as easy to be an Army officer and be African American as well. And he eventually retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he retired in El Paso. And my brother and I both were influenced to join the Army and become officers as well, because of his example and because of what we were exposed to growing up. We liked the idea of what the Army stood for. We liked the ideals of the Army. So we both went a different path. My dad was OCS, which people may know stands for Officer Candidate School. So he was initially enlisted and then went to OCS because he had at least 2 years of college, and then eventually retired as lieutenant colonel. I went through ROTC at New Mexico Military Institute and then finished up at University of Texas, where I was commissioned. And my brother went to West Point. So all three of us became officers through three different avenues. My brother eventually retired as a two-star major general after having commanded Fort Bliss as commanding general in the 1st Armored Division out there as well. But the military, I think, helps to make you appreciate the Constitution and the ideals of the Constitution. It makes you appreciate what America is supposed to stand for. And it makes you more aware of your responsibilities as an American, maybe as it comes to the world in general, and our allies in particular. But we have a place in the geopolitical scheme of things, and obviously the military is a part of that. And when you serve, you get an understanding of that, particularly if you serve at the officer level, where you have to, where you're trained in various areas of command and staff and so forth. So I think it kind of instills in you this pride and this feeling of what's the word I'm looking for? The feeling of, I don't know, I'll just say being an American. But just being a vet, I think is worthwhile, and it tells people that you've done something that a lot of people haven't done in serving your country, and that you hold, those truths to be self-evident, like in the Declaration or in the preamble to the Constitution. And having been in the military and having, been in service of the country, that's why I hate a lot of things that are going on right now in the country. And because these things that are going on that are being put forth as American are not. They're not American. They're self-serving in a lot of ways, and having been in the military and fought for those kinds of ideals, it's you know, it's sad to me to see what's going on at times. So I actually wrote a book about my becoming an Army Ranger. So that was my second novel, is how I became an Army Ranger and some of the things I had to go through in order to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for your service. Final thought. How can people get a hold of your book, get a hold of you, your publishing company? How can they come find you?
The website is olympiadpublishing.com, and they can get a hold of me at Chris Pittard at olympiadpublishing.com. So I think if you type in Olympiad Publishing, it should come up in most search engines, and you should see the publishing company. But it's called Olympiad, spelled OLYMPIAD Publishing, Olympiad Publishing. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me, is either through the website or email me at chrispittard at olympiadpublishing.com.
And are they able to order your books over the internet?
Yes, the books can be ordered either through the website or on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads. Those are all other avenues to order the book. But if you get it through my website, then I'll sign it for you and make it a little more personal.
Okay. Well, Chris, we appreciate you taking the time out and on this Friday morning. And we're looking forward for your next book. So please let us know when that's coming out, because we want to hear from you again and see how you're going down the line.
Well, thank you for having me on, and keep on doing what you're doing, Ron. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right.
Okay, bye.